Hi guys, this is SDJR88 speaking with a much overdue update on my World War I Trench Railway, Amiens 1918. So as you can imagine, I've had an extremely busy couple of months with the layout back at the end of 2018. Of course, November marked the 100th anniversary of the end of the First World War, and as you can imagine, in that month I did a fair number of shows on the run-up to that poignant moment, and of course after it as well. I think in the space of about 3 months I did 7 exhibitions with the layout, which as you can imagine was very, very tiring, but at the same time it was really, really enjoyable, and it was great to meet some of you guys, and yeah, it was just an all-out amazing experience. One such show was, of course, the BRM's National Festival of Railway Modelling back at the beginning of December, and I can safely say that is one of the busiest events I've ever been to, and I basically couldn't get away from the layout for more than 10 minutes, and I think that was only at the end of the Saturday evening, just before closing. I managed to actually have a quick little look around, and I still didn't manage to get all the way around the actual event itself. But yeah, it was an absolutely amazing event. I got to meet lots and lots of inspirational people there, and a number of you guys, and it really was an amazing event. In fact, all the shows that the layout has been to, it really has been great to meet all the people that have come to see it. Back at the beginning of January of this year, the layout marked its first anniversary back at the Western-super-Mare Model Railway exhibition. Back last year, it had its first outing there, and they invited me back again this year, and to mark its first anniversary it was awarded Best in Show, which was really, really nice fitting sort of tribute for the layout, and I was over the moon with that. I was given a cup which I get to keep for the year, which is really, really nice for a model railway exhibition. Most shows you obviously get a cup, and sometimes you just have to have a photograph with it, and then you get a little plaque. But the Western Show, you actually get a little plaque, and you get to keep the cup for a year, and then of course you have to go back again next year, which hopefully I will be with the layout again, to give the cup back. So of course with all the shows, I've had a quiet 2 months now, sort of doing maintenance work on the layout, sorting a few things out, one of which is of course a plaque board. Now, for those of you who have been to a number of model railway exhibitions and seen a number of layouts on the circuit, when you display a layout at a show, quite often the show gives you a little plaque to commemorate you actually going to the event. And as you can imagine, with so many shows last year, I think in total I did about 17 in the 1 year since the layout's been on the circuit. I've built up quite a collection of these little plaques, and as you can see with the layout itself, there's not really any place to put these plaques on, and they all vary in size. So one of the projects I've been working on is a little plaque board, which we'll take a closer look at now. So here's a closer look at the plaque board, and as you can see, it's got the layout's name at the top there, Amiens 1918 Tracks and Trenches, and then below it it's got the 100th anniversary 2018, which is of course the year previous, and these are all the plaques that it's been awarded over this period. So as you can see, it's got its first show at Western-super-Mare, followed by the Gartel Light Railway. Then we have the Severn Valley Railway Open House Weekend, followed by the Small and Delightful Open Day. Then we have the Shipton Mallet and District Model Railway Exhibition. Now I've got 2 plaques for that one. That is just the exhibitor's plaque, and also a highly commended at show. We then have Railways, Sedgemoor Rail, the Swindon Model Railway Exhibition, and then Small and Delightful again. This time it was their main actual exhibition, and the layout was also in attendance there. We then have the Swansea Model Railway Exhibition. Now those plaques are absolutely stunning. They're very, very shiny. You can just see the reflection in them. And the sun isn't quite shining on them just yet, but they are beautiful little plaques. So those are really, really nice ones on there. And you can see there's also 2 of those. Again, one is the main show plaque, and then we also have the Best in Show. We then have Taunton Relics 2018, followed by Wincanton, and then we have Thornbury, followed by the Peterborough BRM National Festival of Railway Modelling, and then of course the West Camel Model Railway Society show as well. And then below that we have its first plaque for 2019, which is the Somerset and Dorset Trust Model Railway exhibition. Now there is one more plaque to add on, which is again another Weston-super-Mare plaque, as mentioned. Now that one is a rather special one, as it has a Best in Show on there, but I thought I'd leave that one off for now. This is purely because it will allow me to position or figure out the position of the next plaque to arrive, as the Weston-super-Mare one is a bit smaller than the one to the left, so I'm possibly thinking like what I've done above there, where I have the Wincanton one above the Thornbury one, and it'll possibly be the same there. So I thought it'd be a nice way to leave that blank so I could sort of figure out where they're going to be placed to. But I'm very pleased with how this has turned out. The plan is to hopefully transport this around with the layout and have it positioned up against the skirt on the front of the layout, the hessian sort of sandbag effect that goes around the front of the layout, which isn't on the layout at the moment. But the idea is this will clamp onto the front and you'll be able to see what shows the layout has attended. I'm very, very pleased with how this has turned out. It's basically just a bit of plain old MDF. I've bought a sort of a large sheet and cut it in half. The other piece will come in handy for other projects. And yeah, just painted it black. And then I've added the text with the same stickers, transfers that I've been using for my ROD projects. For those of you that have been following my ROD slideshows, you'll notice that I've been converting a number of my 00 gauge models into World War I ROD livery, and I've been using these same transfers to turn those into ROD locomotives. So it's quite a nice little text to have on the layout, as it sort of is the same font as was used on the ROD locomotives during the First World War. But anyway, that's the plaque board, and I hope you like the design. And then we'll move on to some of the other things I've been working on the layout, or sort of fixing since the previous update. So you now join me under the layout, taking a look at the trestle tables, and this is one of the things that I've been doing a bit of maintenance on. These trestles are really superb bits of kit. As mentioned in a previous update, I picked them up from a well-known DIY store for £50 or just shy of £50 for the pair, and they have served me extremely well over the past year. The only issue is, as you can imagine, being constantly put up and down, up and down, up and down, it's caused a tiny bit of wear, and it's not much wear. Basically what the wear actually is these nuts here and here. Now these, this bit here is the bit that obviously adjusts the height of the layout and folds down, and being constantly put up and down, it's caused a bit of rough wear on these nuts, and as you can see they've come a bit loose. So I've got to go around and tighten all of these up so I don't lose them. It's a very, very simple job, but it's something that needs to be done, as of course I don't want to get to a show and then find that I've set it up and then of course this whole bit won't go together because the bolt has fallen out. But it's just a simple minor little thing, but again it's a very, very easy fix. Another item I've been working on is of course the hessian skirt that goes around the layout. And here it is in its bag that I use to transport it around shows. And as you can see here, we have a Velcro pad. Now the skirt has got a number of these around the top lip, and as you probably saw at the beginning of the update, there is the other side of the Velcro strip mounted onto the base board. And the idea is you just basically press the skirt up against that and the Velcro strips hold it in place. The only issue is, being a lovely hessian skirt, much like a sandbag it is, it also has quite a few fibres. Now you can just see I've managed to pull one off there on my finger. Most of these have of course gone with the amount of shows this skirt has been to on the layout, but the only problem is it's not good for items with sticky back backs. So all the Velcro strips have sticky backs, which I use to stick them to the hessian in the first place. The only problem is, as you can see here, the stickiness pulls the fibres out, and then of course the pad falls off. And towards the end of last year, the skirt was sort of hanging off in places where the pads were losing their grip on the actual skirt. So what I've gone and done is I've gone around all of them with a stapler, and I've stapled them into position. And yeah, it's worked really, really well. They've all held in place, and the skirt seems to hold really, really nicely on the layout. Now, of course, this is not all what I've been working on. Over the past month or so, I've been working on a little project, which we'll take a closer look at now. And here it is. It is, of course, a protected Simplex. Now, these locomotives are iconic machines that were seen on the WDLR during the First World War. This is, of course, the protected version. This is noticeable by the cab, which, of course, has these little struts and then this sort of like little protected roof. But there were three main variants. You had the unprotected, which is basically just an engine on a chassis. You then had the protected, which is this version. And then you, of course, had the armour-plated version, which, in a way, easiest way to sort of describe it is it looks a bit like a VW Beetle. So instead of this roof, it had a domed roof, and it was one of the heavier of the designs. Most of them were sort of built to this specification, from what I understand, purely because it offered some sort of protection, not much of course. It would protect against small arms fire, but anything bigger, it wouldn't really withstand anything, to be quite honest. But the armour-plated version was a bit less in number built. They were certainly a lot heavier, and they were quite stuffy inside from what I understand or read about them. So anyway, this is a locomotive I've been meaning to build and have on the layout for the past year. In fact, I bought this kit shortly after the layout's first outing at Weston-super-Mare. We had one of the fellow 009 modellers on a layout next to us kindly lent us their model of the Simplex. In fact, it was the same kit as this one. And it really, really was an amazing model. And as soon as I saw it, I knew I had to get a kit and get around to building one for the layout for myself. And finally, after a year, when we had the snow back in earlier on this year, I finally had a bit of spare time to actually sink my teeth in and get round to building it. So the kit itself is made of white metal, so it's extremely heavy with etched brass parts. The roof is made of course, brass, same as the number plates and a few of the little etched details on the side. The couplings are Pico. I've shaped some couplings. I've sort of kit bashed them. I've removed the hooks and shortened them a bit, and I've plugged them into the buffer beam on the kit. And of course the motor. Now the motor is a ready-to-run chassis, and it was bought all the way from Japan. And if I just lift off the body, because it's not attached at this current moment, you see if it comes out. There we go. It is in fact a Tomitech HM01 chassis. Now these chassis are extremely cheap. You can purchase them from Japan as cheap as £12. This one was just shy of £20. But one thing I do have to warn you is, of course, if you're purchasing from somewhere like Japan, you have to be aware of sort of import tax. And admittedly, this has been my first sort of overseas purchase. I was stung when I received a note in the post saying that my parcel had arrived. However, I had to pay £12 to go and collect it. So it brought the total up to just shy of £30 or around £30. But for this motor, it was worth every penny. So originally this sort of motor starts off life as sort of like a kid's toy. So basically it's like a little carriage body that sits on top of the chassis, and you've got some little stickers that come with it. And basically you can make it look like a little commuter train. What I've done is, of course, I didn't bother with any of the stickers, and in fact I actually cut the plastic body in half. Now you can see this little plastic body here that's sort of running around the metal weights there. You could completely remove that, but by removing that you then don't get the support that holds those metal weights on, which of course adds a bit more weight to the model. And also as well, it's sort of roughly the right size to fit inside the Simplex body. So by cutting that off, it allowed it to get the right height to fit inside the body, but also at the same time it keeps those weights in place, which also adds a bit more weight to the model, which slows it down. Some people have obviously had mixed reviews of these chassis. Some people seem to think they're a bit too fast. However, on the test runs, as you will see, hopefully in the little slideshow video I've got planned for this model, it does run really, really smoothly, and it has no trouble over my Insulfrog points, which is an absolute dream. So how I plan to attach this to the chassis, you of course can get an adapter kit, but just with a bit of adaptation, like what I've done here by cutting that body in half and a bit of black tack, the model, the chassis I should say, should fit nice and snug inside the body. So yeah, that's something I've got to get around to doing, is just making it a bit more of a permanent attachment with the black tack. But as you can see, the model is pretty much ready to go. It's been painted, it's been weathered, and hopefully it'll be ready in time for its first, its next outing at the Nailsea Model Railway exhibition. You now join me in the fiddle yard of the layout, and this is where all the action happens. This is where, of course, I store and set up the trains ready to be sent onto the layout. And as you can see here, we've got a bit of a maze of track work. You can see in the far bottom left we have the exit from the trench section of the layout, and at the far top in the centre we have the entrance or the exit from the wooded area of the layout. And you can see we've got a passing loop, so we've got this track right here. This is the outer passing loop. We then have the inner passing loop. We then have two sidings, and then we have a little further sort of head shunt siding here. Now this is all perfectly good and well, and I've been operating the layout quite well with this sort of setup. It means with the passing loop at the front I could have 3 complete rakes with locomotives running around constantly on the layout, so when one comes into the fiddle yard, another one could leave the fiddle yard in either direction, heading out to the front, passing the train that's already at the front, before the train out the front of the layout then comes back into the fiddle yard, which is all fair and good. The only problem comes when I want to either swap the locomotives over or run a 4th rake. So currently I sometimes have a 4th rake set up in this siding here. The only problem is, to get it out of this siding I have to make sure this passing loop here is clear, which means this train will have to be at the front. The only problem is, when this train is at the front, it means there's also another train at the front, which means when I start reversing a train out of here, there's a train on the front of the layout moving as well, which of course proves impractical. Again, as you can see, the pair of points leaving from this siding are right at the far end of the fiddle yard, meaning that if it's a long rake, which more often than not it is, which is about, on average, about 3 wagons at minimum, 4 or 5 at maximum, you can imagine you'll see the tail end of the train actually come onto the layout at the front before going back into the fiddle yard to come out at the other end, which of course looks a bit weird from the visitor's point of view. So my plan is to add a 3rd passing loop, and the way I plan to do this is by removing this straight section here and putting in a set of points, removing this little curve end of the siding altogether, and instead curving it around the opposite way to meet this section here. This will mean I'll have a short 3rd passing loop which will be big enough to store a small locomotive along with 2, possibly even 3 bogie wagons. Now this will increase the operating capacity of the layout dramatically. It means that I'll have 4 complete rakes to run constantly, and it also means I'll still have this little siding down here and that siding there to store extra rolling stock if need be. and all I just have to do is swap the locomotive over rather than the whole train. So this is the plan. It's something I've been meaning to do over the past year, but with all the shows I've had back in 2018, I just never got around to doing it. And possibly, if I get a bit of time, I hope to do this just before the shows in April. In theory, it looks rather simple. All I just have to do is unpin this bit of track here and then unpin that bit of track there. But of course, I want to be careful because I don't want to go ripping it all up and then find that I've ruined the connection of the actual whole loop and then nothing works, which I can imagine when I get around to doing electrics, it will be the latter, and that will be the case. So I'm going to take my time on this one, but it's one of the plans that I've had, and I think it will make the operating of the layout a lot more easier and of course a lot more enjoyable for visitors viewing the layout. So I guess that's all for this update, and I hope you enjoyed the progress that has been made to the layout, and I look forward to hopefully seeing some of you guys at a number of shows around the country this year. I've got a few excellent shows in the pipeline with more to be confirmed. Once all the shows have been confirmed, I will of course get round to doing a little video with all the dates on, like I did last year. I do apologise that it's a bit late this year, but I've had a manic couple of months sorting a few other things out, and I haven't really got round to confirming the shows, and I'm just getting all the paperwork through now. So the plan is to get around to editing a little video of all those dates up very, very soon. But in the not too distant future, we got its first outing after its couple of months break, which is at the Swansea Model Railway exhibition at the beginning of April, which is then quickly followed by the its second outing in April, which is at Train West at Corsham, which is near Bath, the week directly after the Swansea show. So I've got a busy April with the layout. And then there's more shows to come, including another massive show, which is the Bristol Rail X, I believe, which is at Thornbury, and that is going to be another massive show. It's one of the biggest in the southwest, and I really look forward to displaying the layout at that one as well. And then of course there's a number of other excellent shows in the pipeline for this year, and of course, like I said, I'll do a video when they're all confirmed. Anyway, progress to continue on with, of course mounting the Simplex, and possibly a few other little project, rolling stock projects in the pipeline as well, and of course getting round to putting in the extra passing loop to increase a bit of capacity in the fiddle yard, and I look forward to getting started on that very, very soon. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this update, and I guess that's all that's left for me to say is this has been SDJR Son F88 speaking, and thanks for watching.